A number of your folks a while ago on the video said that from their perspective, what is communication? Communication is face-to-face, nose-to-nose, person-to-person, toes-to-toes. And I was able to capture the essence of what I believe to be the 6 premier lessons of face-to-face communication. I will tell you without reservation that I became a better communicator the very next day because I started practicing the 6 things I'd witnessed that doctor do. And I want to share those 6 things with you. I want to share them with you because you'll realize that this is not something that we have to practice month and month and month after a month to try to get right. We can start being better communicators today, this hour, if we choose to, by applying the 6 things that the doctor practiced. And here they are. Here's the first one. Number 1. Talk with people. Don't talk about people. Don't talk behind people. Don't talk down to people. Don't talk over people. Talk with people. That doctor, when he entered the room, knew exactly who his patient was. Yes, he was cordial to my wife and I, but his patient was that little boy. And he immediately focused all of his attention and all of his energies and all of his communication on that little boy. He didn't talk down to the little boy, he just talked to the little boy. He talked about as a little boy would talk. And as a result, the little boy listened and participated. Now, the doctor could have come into the room and said, Mr. Van Hooser, Mrs. Van Hooser, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I'm going to be working on your son Joe. Let me tell you what I'm going to do to Joe. He could have done all that. But I'm telling you, Joe would have been standing there listening thinking, no, you ain't. I have some control over this situation. See, he immediately turned his attention to the little boy, to his patient. How many times you see people talking to the wrong people, or talking to the people in the wrong way, overlooking them, assuming too much, focusing too little? Number 1, talk with people. Number 2, explain the process. Explain the process up front. Before you even get into the process of doing what you do, explain what you're about to do to other people. You know, so many of us in this room do our jobs and have done our jobs for so long, in some cases over 40 years, that we assume that everybody else will know what it is that we have known for so long and that we do so regularly. But the reality is that convenience store clerk doesn't know, or that grocery store person doesn't know, or that vending person doesn't know. You have got to explain the process. Now here's the kicker. Some people will say, I don't have time to explain the process. I'm a busy person. I've got to get on with it. Listen to me very carefully. You don't have time not to explain the process. Because as soon as the problems begin, you're going to have to go back and explain the process all over again. Only this time, you're going to be explaining it to people who are already emotionally upset. If you explain up front, before they're emotionally upset, now you can connect with someone, make a friend. And we all know that business is all about relationships. So number 2, explain the process. Tell them what you're going to do. Tell them how you're going to do it. Tell them how long it'll take. Tell them how they'll feel about it when it's all said and done. Explain the process. Number 3. Now I hesitate to say this is the most important point of the 6 because frankly all 6 are important, but please don't miss number 3. Some people do. Yes, you've got to talk with the person, and yes, you've got to explain the process. But number 3, tell the truth. Tell the truth. You can do everything else right, and if you lie to someone, your communication efforts are going to be for no good cause. They're going to be for naught. Tell the truth. And sometimes the truth means that you don't tell them what they want to hear, but rather what they need to hear. That doctor looked at my son and said, Joe, this is going to hurt. Nobody wants to hear that. On the other hand, Joe needed to hear that. He needed to hear it so that he could understand exactly what was going on next. He had never had stitches before. He didn't know if it was going to hurt or how bad it was going to hurt or for how long it would hurt. The doctor was able to tell the truth and connect at a level that nobody would have believed a 3-year-old could do. We can do the same thing. If you tell people the truth, even if they don't want to hear what you have to say, how many times will they come back to us later after the emotion subsides and say, hey, I'm going to tell you something, I appreciate you being straight I appreciate you leveling with me. You know, so many times people won't do that, and you did that, and even though it was unpleasant, I know it's probably hard for you to do. I want to know how that I appreciate it. How many of y'all have had that happen somewhere along the way? Give me a show of hands someplace, yeah? I know it's happened to me many times, and it can happen to you too if you'll tell the truth. Number four. Fourth point in the whole process is work for understanding. Work for understanding. Well, the key elements of communication is that it's not easy. That's why we say work for understanding. See, how many of you have ever heard someone say, listen, I told them once, if they didn't get it, that's not my problem. Or how about this? Read my lips. Assuming that if we talk louder or longer or more directly, that somehow they're going to understand that. We've got to change the message to be consistent with the audience. We've got to let them understand the process, but to understand the process, we've got to work. The one point I would make on this one that I think is terribly important for all of us to realize is this. If you are the initiator of communication, if you're the one that's trying to get a message across, it is your responsibility to get them to understand. It's not their responsibility to understand just because you want them to. Therefore, that means we've got to get better at communicating. That means when your child won't listen to you, you can't just throw up your hand and say, I'm not going to talk to them. You've got to find another way of communicating with them. Why? Because communication is critical. Same in the workplace. You got an employee or a coworker that somehow you're not communicating with. The fact that you shut them off or separate yourself from them or simply don't talk to them is not going to improve communication. You've got to find other ways to do that for the good of all involved. The doctor talked to Joe. And even though Joe understood every step of the process, I doubt that if he would have said to Joe, Joe, do you understand? If Joe would have said, no, sir, I don't understand, I doubt that the doctor said, well, listen, that's not my